My name's Tony Plohetski. I'm a reporter with the Austin American-Statesman. We drove into New Orleans late on Sunday night. I guess that would have been August 28th, 2005. We drove a rented SUV, a big truck, and the city was completely or almost completely quiet. There was no one on the street. A lot of the power had already been turned out. Photographer Matt Rourke and I basically made a promise with each other that I'm glad we did. We basically promised each other that we were going to stay side by side for the next several days. We thought that while the city was definitely had taken a pounding from the hurricane, we did not know at that point that within 24 hours, 80% of New Orleans would be covered in water. The next morning, I remember waking up around 6 a.m. and looking at my watch, and then looking out the window of the car and seeing that the car was nearly submerged in water. At that point, the car was essentially disabled, and we were in a town that was quickly becoming more and more flooded. We were invited to hop on board a National Guard truck, a big National Guard truck. The truck was called to an apartment complex right off Canal Street, and we were told that a woman had just had a baby and needed help desperately. I believe Matt followed them inside and went with police officers and National Guard officials into this unit to help retrieve the baby and the mother. I think that's when it really started sinking in to me that the city and the people there were really in a desperate situation. We were seeing people who were going up to stores with crowbars and with bricks, and they were just pounding the windows and pounding the doors and shattering glass and going inside and just grabbing, anything they could. Water, juice, food. There were some who were also taking, clothing and shoes and other supplies as well. It became very apparent very early on that not only did they not want to talk to a reporter, they also did not want their photographs. They would continuously kind of yell out threats, specifically to Matt as he continued snapping photographs. And so it was very fearful. After water started rising in the city, we began seeing more and more people coming out of their homes in downtown New Orleans and the French Quarter. A lot of people carrying clothes, photographs. Many of them at that point were very afraid. A lot of people would ask for food or for water. We did at one point give some gasoline to a New Orleans police officer who was standing outside of a hospital and told us that a generator that had been keeping a patient alive was about out of gas and that we could help save this person's life by giving them some gasoline. Months and months later, he got in touch with us and thanked us for giving him our gasoline that day and said that we had, in fact, helped save a life. It was, I don't know how it felt. By about Wednesday, so 2 days after the hurricane had struck, I was beginning to wonder about myself and Matt. We had not eaten a hot meal in a couple of days. At that point, we were surviving off, bottled water, Pop-Tarts, power bars. We also, had been waiting around in this water for 2 days that we would see, medicine bottles, debris, and even worse. I will also say, though, that as a reporter, I felt really on. I mean, I knew that this was a huge story, perhaps the biggest story that I would cover in my lifetime. We had heard that teams of paramedics and firefighters from the Austin area were going to be heading into New Orleans to take care of people at a triage center, and began treating patients as they were being helicoptered in from hospitals, nursing homes, and from the rooftops of their own homes. And that was truly the hardest day for me. There was just so much suffering We saw people who were at death. They had been without food and water for several days. It was hot and humid and awful. There were no toilet facilities. That's also where we met Shyla Dixon. She had been in the Gentilly neighborhood and had been rescued earlier that day and brought to the same location. She had a small child with her, and basically when she got to that area, she really began weeping very openly, how grateful she was that she had been rescued from her neighborhood. But then there was this whole nother issue about what she was going to do now. She had been, brought to this area with these thousands of people, and yet really there was nowhere for them to go. These people basically were waiting for further rescue. They had made it to sort of this central point in Metairie where many of them were being medically evaluated. After several hours, buses started showing up, and they were being placed on buses to a destination that they didn't even know. One of the main things that several people we talked to were trying to do were just keep families together. They did not want to be separated from their loved ones. Totally heart-wrenching. 5 years later, the memory of covering Hurricane Katrina is still very fresh in my mind. In the months and weeks after, frequently as I would try to go to sleep at night, I would see in my mind the faces of the people I had met, the desperation in their eyes. I think I've recovered from that, as have the people of New Orleans. I've been back there many, many times over the past 5 years and have watched as the city has made a comeback. And so that's been very gratifying to see. Looking back, I'm certainly glad that I was able to witness that story and report on that. It's definitely something that has stuck with me and I think created memories that I'll carry for a lifetime.